All right, welcome back. It's time for our second interview. Dickson Okorie, the team lead, claims Allianz Nigeria is joining me virtually from Lagos. Hello, Mr. Okorie, and thank you for joining us on the show.
Hi, Nancy. Good morning. Thank you for having me on your show today.
Yes, hi, Dickson. Let's get started. Dickson, I still can't see you, but I guess you can hear me. Let's get started. The Allianz 2021 barometer has just been released. Speak to me about why this barometer is significant.
Okay, thank you once again for having me on the show. I hope that you have visuals of me.
Yes, I have visuals of
so
you
I'll
now.
just
I
go
can
straight
see
in it.
you.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, great. All right, so the Allianz Risk Barometer is an annual survey that's usually carried out by the Allianz Global Corporate and Specialty, otherwise known as AGCS. So this is an entity of the Allianz Global. So it's an annual publication, and this year is the 10th year of this publication. And also, I would like to say that it's the biggest yet. And why I say the biggest yet is because we have been able to incorporate the views of a record number of respondents across 92 countries and territories. That is over 2,700 respondents. Now, this risk survey is usually carried out amongst Allianz customers, global businesses, brokers, industry, trade organizations. We also survey risk consultants, underwriters, senior managers, claim experts, in the corporate insurance segments, of Allianz entities. And the respondents are asked, to select the industry about which they are particularly knowledgeable about, and then to name up to 3 risks that they believe to be the most important. Now, this survey was carried out all through October and November 20, and it's focused on large enterprises and also SMEs. And so based on the responses that we have gotten, based on this survey, we have been able to come up with 10 top risks to watch out for in 2021.
Okay.
And I believe you have them already, so, okay.
Okay, just before we come over to the risk, we've heard you that you said over 2,700 respondents were reached. I really want to know what methodology was used to arrive at those top business risks, because when I was looking at the report, I saw at least top 10 business risks, not just in Nigeria, but globally. How did you arrive? What methodology did you use to arrive at those?
Okay, so it's so like I tried to explain earlier, what we simply do is we have top experts, across various insurance segments, of course, in the Allianz entity, and also we also surveyed the customers, global customers, and also trade organizations. And what we have simply done is, so what are we simply ask questions like, what are the risks that you fear most for businesses, narrowing it down to large businesses and also small, that is SMEs. And we have asked, what are the top 3 risks, that you fear that businesses should watch out for? And so these respondents have given their answers, have given their responses. And what we have done is we have collated all their responses, put them together, and then based on the total, based on the total that we have gotten, then that's how we came up with the top 10 risks.
Okay. I would like you now at this point to articulate the most important business risk in the report for 2021. That's the A part of the question. The B part of the question is that while you're articulating it, are those risks the same? Are they the same top threats worldwide, or are they different for Africa? I hope you understand what I'm saying. That if you articulate the most important business risks for 2021, are they the same worldwide, or are they categorized? Africa is feeling a few of them. Other countries or other continents are feeling more of them. I hope you grab what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get your question. Yes. I understand it perfectly. So I'll just try and articulate as you have requested. Okay, so now there are top 10 risks, like I said earlier, that were identified, but I will narrow it down to the top 3. And we actually call them the COVID trio. And the reason why is because we feel that from the analysis that we've done and from the responses, we think that they are actually interlinked. And so the first risk that comes up is business interruption. Business interruption, which deals with loss of revenue, loss of profit, over a period of time. And then the second risk that comes up is the pandemic outbreak. Obviously, come up by incident. Now, the reason why I've said three risks are interlinked because the pandemic that has fallen on us, fallen on humanity, so to say, over the past year and even still ongoing is, and uncertainties of our highly connected world. Like we say, the world is a global village, so which means an effect in one part of the world an incident in one part of the world can have a massive effect, in another part of the world. And this is why we say they are interlinked. Now, these are the top three risks globally. But then narrowing down to Africa, so in the world generally, still the top three risks. But narrowing down to Africa, one particular risk is not part of this global risk, and that is macroeconomic development.
Okay, macroeconomic development, and I assume that Nigeria is part of it.
Definitely.
Okay, can you quickly just break that down, especially for the risk facing Africa? Because when I looked through the report too, I saw that some risk facing Ghana may not necessarily, in terms of if you're sequencing it number 1, 2, 3, it's not the same for Nigeria, it's not the same for South Africa, but we're all African countries.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so I will try to break it down. I'll try to break it down further. Okay, so starting from, and then I also throw a little more light on the macroeconomic development. Now, like I tried to explain earlier, the world is a global village, okay, and the pandemic has come upon us, and it's the way it is now, and so businesses have to adapt, and so one of the adaptations has been an acceleration towards digitalization. You see, we have lots of remote working. Businesses are now put online. I'm having this interview, for instance, with you, over online, rather than a physical meeting, and there are travel restrictions and different stuff like that. And the implication of all this, so, technology is a double-edged sword, so to say. It's advantageous in business continuity, but however, it also presents more risks. And so the number one risk as far as technology is concerned is the fact that due to increased demand in the need for IT solutions, now there's a pressure on IT solutions, and this can lead to infrastructural failure. And this is something that we should watch out for, okay? Because the implication further is that once there's an infrastructure failure, there will be a downtime in business activities, and that now links to what we call the business interruption. So that's why I call it the COVID trial, because you can see how the pandemic has led to an technology failure, and also then leading to a downtime in business activities. Now, second thing that we should also look out for is errors from employees. More than ever before, errors right now can be very, very, very costly and also expensive. And then the third thing I also like to highlight is the fact that we now do a lot of businesses are now coming up online. It means we are going to be dealing with a lot of data, and so the data privacy laws now comes into effect. And not many people know that Nigeria actually has a data protection regulation, that was enacted in 2019. And a breach, and really what this data protection regulation just talks about is giving guidelines on how we handle data, what to do with customers' data, whether we get enough access, whether we get enough access to use this data and stuff like that. And a breach of this regulation can lead to hefty fines, as much as 2% of the total revenue of a company. Then also, we should also note that as technology is advancing, cyber attackers are also innovating. The saying says, innovate or die. So even as businesses should innovate, we should also be mindful and aware that cyber attackers are innovating. The risks of phishing, ransomware, DOS attacks, denial of service attacks are still largely available. Now, which also, and that thing again to watch out for is that as we are advancing in technology, also traditional sectors, we are also hastening the demise of traditional sectors. You know, new competitors are coming up and then taking over the market. So this is as far as cyber business interruption is concerned. Now, narrowing down to macroeconomic development, we're actually in a second recession. You know, if I'm not wrong, this is the second recession Nigeria is facing in the last 4 years. In the last 4 years, the second recession, and in fact, this is the worst economic recession we've had in about 33 years. Inflation rates has gone up. You already stated earlier in the with the last discussant that inflation has gone to around 15.75%, and that is very correct. You know, last year January the inflation started around 12.13, but look at how much it has grown, and this is largely because of, you know, food inflation. We have the insecurity in the north. The north as it is, provides majority of our food, you know, in this country, and so the insecurity of the north is really affecting our prices. We all remember how people say, you know, the joke around that once you have onions, you know, you're a millionaire and stuff like that, you know, and that's because of, you know, this effects in the north. We have the land border closure, even though it's open now, but then this has also affected. This has also created a very big impact on our inflation. There are productivity challenges. There are issues in logistics costs. Different issues. In fact, Goldman Sachs has projected that inflation will rise to around 18% by the end of Q1 2021, and several other issues that concerns the macroeconomic development in Nigeria. And these are the risks that were identified that businesses should watch out for. We have the drop in production of the production and price of oil. Nigeria's biggest source of foreign exchange still remains oil, and as long as the prices are low, we're still going to be having these issues of shortage of dollars, the steep in GDP, in our GDP. You know, unemployment rate. You stated in your last, you showed something in your last presentation of the misery index of Nigeria. It has gone up. Misery index is simply unemployment rate, underemployment rate, and inflation rate altogether, which is very, very high. And the implication is if you are saying misery index is around 40%, so it means that if I bring in 10 Nigerians, 4 of the Nigerians are automatically miserable. So these are things that we should watch out for. You know,
okay.
These are things that we should watch out for, and businesses need to adapt so not to be affected by all this.
Now, that is my next question, that how can businesses adapt? How can they be better managed? How can they build better, especially with the COVID trio, which you've talked about, business disruption, pandemic outbreak that we've seen? As well, I also want to bring in this part, the part of civil unrest, like we saw in Nigeria, the hashtag #EndSARS protest that happened last year. So how can businesses better protect themselves? Not just even in Nigeria, we saw Black Lives Matter. We saw also what happened at the Capitol Hill building in the United States. So you can imagine that businesses even around there has been on a close down due to the inauguration of President Biden. So how can businesses be better protected from all those risks which you've enumerated?
Exactly. So thank you very much for this question. You see, the main point of bringing out this risk barometer is simply to create awareness, number one, and then to propose solutions. You know, when awareness is created, it simply means that half of the problem is solved, and then everybody can, you know, brainstorm on how we can go around this, you know, and make things better for us. And so, like you rightly stated, there's also the issue of, you know, civil unrest. Although it didn't come up in the top 4, but it's there, and we can't deny it. Right in America, we remember the Black Lives protest, you know, that happened last year. You have also mentioned the Capitol incident, you know, before the inauguration of Biden. And then down here in October, you know, the issues surrounding the #EndSARS protest and the massive destructions, you know, that followed after. And, you know, and a lot of businesses were affected. If I remember correctly, the Lagos State government estimated the damages to be in billions of naira, you know, and this is really massive. And so the ways we can mitigate all these risks that have been highlighted, for me and for us, we have identified that there are 2 major things that we should look out for. Number one is prudent risk management. Now, the risk management can differ from, from organization to organization, but then we have to take note of this prudent risk management and business continuity planning. These two will play a very, very, very critical role in helping businesses survive, extreme events like we have experienced over the past year. And so, for instance, I'll pick up business interruption. Like I said, that's number one risks that we've identified, even in Nigeria and globally. Now, for business interruption, one of the key issues we have around business interruption surround supply chain. Surround supply chain. We have issues with logistics. We have issues with production, and so we have identified that there's a need for business continuity contingency plans and also the risking of of our supply chain. And so once we have a more resilient supply chain and digitalization of this whole process, this risk can be surmounted. Speaking of supply chain, we can develop alternative or multiple suppliers. We can invest more in digital supply chains. We can intensify supplier selections. Businesses can also do a lot of risk assessment, safety stock management, and the rest of them. So these are just examples of solutions that can be put into shoring up supply chain. And then I also pick cyber. Now, in cyber, I think the best thing to say is that prevention is better than cure. Businesses do not have to wait for an incident before solutions can be thought about. So more than ever before, businesses need big investment in updated IT infrastructure. Once the IT infrastructure is updated, I said earlier that the attackers are inventing, they are innovative, and so businesses also have to be on top of their games. And it's very, very important that we invest more in IT infrastructure. Employ more of data encryption technology, updated antivirus, and also very, very important, employees need to be aware of all this. Employees need to be aware. When attackers try to attack a business through phishing, they simply play on the naivety of employees. You click what you're not supposed to click, stuff like that. So awareness needs to be created. Let there be a crisis management plan, such that in case there's a blackout, what do you need to do? So if there's enough backup of data, for business, so once there's a blackout, you just switch to the backup while you try to solve whatever issues have happened. And then lastly, I also like to mention cyber insurance. So once all these risk measurements has been put into consideration, cyber insurance is also good to take.
Okay. Dickson, this is the last question just as we go. From the Alliance perspective, with all this risk facing the world, what is the mid to long-term outlook for the world, and that's for the world, or let me just segmentize it, for Africa and the rest of the world? What's the mid to long-term outlook? Is it optimistic or pessimistic or cautiously optimistic?
Okay, this is a tricky one anyway. I would say it's not. It's just cautiously optimistic. Let me put it that way.
Or it's not looking good. Or just give it to us, bam, like that. It's not looking good.
So, I don't want to sound pessimistic, but I've brought out. I've tried to bring out some of the risks that we might face. Now, the reason why I've chosen cautious optimistic is because it depends on the way we have tried to. Now we have an idea of things that could happen, and now it's now left for businesses to sit back, go back to the drawing table, re-strategize, and see how these problems can be surmounted. Now, those who come up in terms of re-strategizing and trying to surmount the problems are the ones that would see an optimistic view. Okay, but those who don't sit down and do these things, so that's why I say cautiously optimistic. So it can be here, it can be there. But then this is how it is, the way I've laid it out for you.
Yeah, it's dependent on, you've brought out the report. These are the risks, guys. These are the threats facing us. So you've got to be up to the minute in terms of addressing those risks. So how we address it would depend on the outlook for us in the mid to long term.
Exactly.
Thank you very much, Dickson, for speaking with us today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nancy. Thanks for having me today.
All right, I've been speaking with Dickson Okorie, who is the team lead claims Allianz Nigeria. We've been looking at the Allianz 2021 Risk Barometer. We've been speaking about it at least in the last few minutes. Thank you all for being a part of the show today. Don't forget the MPC meeting is underway. You should be interested in what the MPC does that's 6 times in a year: January, March, July, September, November, 6 times in a year. I hope I got that right. So the outcome will be out tomorrow. I'll see you all again tomorrow. God willing, be the best you can be, but the change you want to see. Don't forget, wear a mask.